Ruth. And okay, right. So shall we start?
Yep.
Well, welcome everyone to our 10 Club Portrait competition. I would like to acknowledge the club presidents, our judges, Alan Moyle and Christopher Ian, members from all the 10 clubs, and our guests tonight. Portraiture is a genre of photography that we all know. It may not be your genre, but you will have to admit that when you look at a photograph of your favourite person or people in their environment of the day, especially if it was taken years earlier, you get a new appreciation for portrait photography. Tonight epitomises why this genre is important and why it's upon us to document those around us. Who's that down the bottom there, Colin? I just saw that. We're about to embark on a very exciting opportunity to bring to life the culmination of all the hard, earnest and creative work of all those involved. This collective effort over the last 10 months brings this competition to the forefront tonight for the second year running. A huge thank you to the team of presidents, competition stewards and club members for all your work and participation to support not just this initiative, but also to support your fellow members of the 10 clubs and the wider photography fraternity. Your support for events like the 10 clubs offers all of us an opportunity to build relationships with a wider pool of like-minded photographers and clubs. It offers the ability to see wonderful images from other members that we wouldn't ordinarily see. It also offers the joy of learning from other clubs. Lastly, it demonstrates what clubs can achieve when we work together. Thank you to our judges, Alan Moyle and Christopher Ian, who have put in a tremendous effort to evaluate and judge our images. I'm really looking forward to the wealth of knowledge and expertise about to be imparted and shared tonight. I'd like to express my gratitude to Lawrence Cecchinello, Kevin Barrell, Maggie Tan, Jose Arbolo and Leo Slaverio from the Campbell Camera Club for their dedication to everything behind the scenes, working diligently over the last 12 months to ensure tonight runs smoothly. And lastly, a special mention to Ken Spence. Ken, this was your initiative, it's your brainchild, and you've worked tirelessly, literally performing backflips to overcome challenges along the way to ensure that we have a high quality competition that focuses on the genre of portraiture. So with that, I'd like to hand over to our Master of Ceremony, Ken Spence.
Thanks, Donna. And you did miss a name in that thank you.
Oh, did I? Who did I miss?
You did. You missed your own name.
Oh, my. And me.
Which you've done a lot of stuff and you've been very supportive and you've helped really steer this through. So, yes, that was a name you forgot.
Oh, that's right.
Anyway, as Donna said, there's been a lot of work put in by a lot of people and, you know, most importantly, the actual photographers. So has it all been worth it? Well, I think when you actually, if you've had an opportunity to look through the gallery and see all these photos, I think you think it was worth it. There's been a lot of work put into those images. And also, I think an enhancement from last year. So I think we're all learning about portraiture and how important it is and some refinements. So over time, that's going to enhance what we can do for our friends and family and other people in our community through taking wonderful photos of them. It's not just about this competition as well. You know, we do call this a 10 Club Portrait competition. We could also call it 10 CPC. We could call it the 10 Club Portraiture Collective or collaboration, because that's really what we were hoping to build out of this. And we've done some of that. We've had some events during the year, which I thought were really important. Alan Moyle gave us a presentation on portraiture photography, which was very helpful and set people up to understanding him, but also other aspects of portrait photography relevant to putting in submissions and entries. And we also had Chris Hopkins speak to us, a specialist journalist in portraiture type work. I found that personally, you know, very exciting and inspiring presentation. And I know that will over time influence me a lot. So I think we've all, and I hope other people feel the same. So it's not just this competition, it's the other things we hope to tag onto it, and perhaps we can do more of that in the future. Now, just before we get onto it, I just want some housekeeping rules. I mean, basically, if you're not a speaker, if you could mute that would be good. If it may have already been done for you by our controlling God at headquarters. If you've got any questions, if you could add those to the chat room, and I might ask Donna whether she could keep a bit of an eye on that.
Sure.
So we can fill those in at appropriate times. There'll be a short tea break in the middle, or coffee break, or comfort stop. So we've covered that. As you know, this is being recorded. It's fairly tight on time, so the people speaking up from time to time, I might have to sort of edge them out of it to keep to our tight schedule, because we want to keep to a bit of time and finish close to 9:30. But also afterwards, as well as the recording of this session, there's scores of every image which will be made available to the clubs to distribute amongst their members. Plus also, our judges have critiqued every image. Some of both judges have critiqued, some just one judge has critiqued, but there's comments on every single image, and we'll be sending those out to the clubs as well. So you can look up your image and see specific comments from the judge. So I think that's pretty amazing. Just a few reminders about some key rules associated with this competition, just to get those on the table up front. To try and equal the playing field a little bit, we decided after the last competition that we would require larger clubs, that's with more than 100 members, to restrict themselves so that only one entry could be put in by one member into the competition. So of the 25 entries into the competition, they would have to have images from 25 of their members. So that was for the larger clubs. That's Camberwell, Melbourne and Knox. Waverley was right on the margin. They had 100 members. I went back and looked at what we'd said, and we'd said more than 100. So they just scraped through. So a number of clubs have been able to put a maximum of 2 entries in per member, but the larger ones 100. So I think that's worked well and satisfies our objective of trying to get more people involved and more people thinking about portrait photography and putting them in. We've highlighted that the photographs must be your own creative work and couldn't have been taken under the direction of other people, or we just don't want everything set up by other people and just a click that you take, and that's very much our objective. And we had hoped this year, after the first one, to move to a situation where we really encourage people to take portraits by limiting the time frame over which entries had to be taken. Lovely concept. Something called This Virus Got in the Road. So whether we can move to that next year or not, I'm not sure. I doubt it. But over time, that's where we definitely want to head. Now, as to our judges, we've been incredibly fortunate. We've not only been fortunate with the 2 judges we've got tonight, but we were also very fortunate to have Mandarin Montgomery as a judge as well. But unfortunately, it was only a few weeks ago now that she contacted us to say that due to a serious illness in her family, and she had to step back from that. So if she's joining us tonight, I hope everything's going well with the health of your family members. But in very short notice, Christopher Ian was able to join us, and he's really stepped up. And a number of people would know Christopher from his involvement speaking to other camera clubs. And so we're very lucky to have him, and Alan Moyle. Now, both of those people, what is the common thread between all of those 3 people, but particularly the 2 we've got here tonight, is their expertise and passion in portrait photography. They are professionals in this area. They work at it. They love it. They are recognised by the Industry Association, the Australian Institute of Professional Photography, as multiple masters, not just one master's certificate, it's multiple masters by that association. So they really know what they're doing. And more than that, they're still, people in a lot of jobs lose passion. These guys haven't lost passion. And that comes through in the comments and the way they've tackled this judging, and, exactly everything we could have wanted. And they're also very good communicators, which is going to help us enormously. I'm going to let each of them now sort of introduce themselves in a way in that we've asked them to both, or together really, speak about what they see as the importance of portrait photography, some of the bigger picture issues and key points that they see in this whole genre. And then we'll move into going through each of the categories of the competition, a little bit of an intro from them, some points they might want to make more broadly, have a look at all the photos in that category, and then have a look at some of the awarded images. Now, you'll find tonight that we go through some of those slideshows reasonably quickly. We didn't want to keep you here till 12 o'clock, but we sort of don't hesitate. We don't apologise too much for that, because we've sent you in advance a link to a slideshow of each of these categories. So you could have had the opportunity to look through those and slow them down and have a look at particular photos. And again, of course, there's a recording of this will be available as well. So I'm going to pass to both Ian and Alan, so Christopher and Alan, to just give us a bit of an intro to their views on portrait photography for a few minutes before we get into the nitty-gritty. Get over to you guys.
Alan, are you going to start?
No, I thought you were going to start.
Let's toss for it.
Cool. So I'll jump in. So really, I guess portrait photography, like, oh, you've already done the introduction, but yeah, I'm basically a family portrait photographer. That's my main thing. But I've also photographed hundreds of comedians, musicians, all that kind of stuff over the years. So that was kind of the early stuff. And now I'm really finding my passion in family photography. And for me, a portrait is something that has some kind of life to it. Like if you can see Colin Morris's little thumbnail on the screen, that has no life in it. You want to actually have, if you can't see it, it's a mannequin. I don't know why he's got a mannequin there. Come and join us, Colin. But you want to have a spark. You want to have some life in the photos. You want to actually be able to see the essence of the person in the photos, or even not just the person, what the photographer is actually put in to the photo, because it's their own artistic expression. So really, I'm looking for in portraits sort of emotion, and that doesn't have to be sad emotion. A lot of time it can be happy and joyous, or even bored, or weird. Those kind of things are all emotions, and they are kind of important. And that generally comes from knowing the person you're photographing, or having a really clear idea how you're going to portray them, and then having the skill with the camera, but also with how you're actually talking and interacting with someone to actually produce the image. So I guess that's my little summary.
Thanks, Alan. Christopher.
On a micro level, the reason that I am a photographer is because of portraiture. The most important thing I feel about portraiture, certainly at the Camera Club percentage, is that in a family, as a photographer, regardless of your age, you become the most important person in that family, because you're recording events and people start to rely on you. So you get invited to events, more things asked, because the people there are relying on you to capture the moment while they live the moment. So even as a second form child of, say, 14, teachers were asking me to take photos of certain things on school excursions. But if you think about it, over the years, I've had people ask me to come and photograph their babies in hospitals and things like that are personal friends. This is a non-professional gig. And that's what happens when you're a portrait photographer. You get invited to moments where you see a child's first birthday all the way through to their 18th. And it's because people want the security of knowing the image is going to be captured sincerely and properly. It's not a flippance, it's something that you will do properly. And so that's why I feel at the level that everyone in this room is, you're the most important person in your family, because you record the events. And that's why portraiture is so important.
Christopher, that's fantastic. And Alan, that's fantastic. That's absolutely agree. I think we'd all vote on that. And that's why I think it's so important as well. But thank you for that. So that gives us a bit of an idea where you guys are coming from. But more specifically, I suppose, we're going to now move on to look at the first category that we'll see some images and see your comments on the judging. And that's the one that's a bit out of left field. I mean, it's this creative category, the abstract/creative category that we put, which is some of the clubs last year had a few difficulties in marshalling the images. So we reduced that from 10 images per club down to 5. And I think we've got some great stuff in there, and it's very important. It's not straight portraiture. So before we get into that, is there any particular comments that either of you guys would like to make about the 50, well, images in that category that you saw, more sort of general observations?
Oh, there was a huge, awesome range of images in there. Like, I know that Christopher and I had a really fun time judging it. You kind of don't sort of see this on the back end. When we're judging, we are really passionate. So we really get into it. We really look at images. And again, we are both addicted to photography. So this one here being basically free range, you can do anything. It was great. I guess some of the feedback, I guess, overall is know when enough is enough. If you're actually doing photoshopping or retouching and things like that, understand when, you know, if you can go too far, and some people did do that. So, but we can sort of comment on that a little bit later too, Christopher.
I've got two photos that I'd like to put up. The first one I shot in Russia, and it's about something that I've noticed in virtually all categories. And it's almost like, say, someone 3 months ago came to the club and had a discussion, and everyone took on board everything that was said and took it to heart and instantly converted their photography to this, because it's so prevalent through all the photography. So can we have that image up of the Russian wedding, if that's possible?
Yep.
So tell me, oh, here we go.
There you go. Can you see that?
Yeah. Now, the one thing I noticed in virtually all the photography was that everyone was certainly, well, they were very much loving their telephoto. They absolutely loved the voyeur in them too, especially their overseas photos. They were grabbing a scene and capturing it on their telephoto. Now, Robert Capel would say, if your pictures aren't good enough, you ain't close enough. But you've got to remember, he was shooting on a 35mm lens, not a telephoto. So those shots at Omaha Beach, they have context. And that's what I find is missing in so many photos, because you've gone in just that fraction too close for the graphic. But particularly if it's an overseas shot, so much detail is lost. And we do need context. So in this shot, for instance, this is a 15mm. So what have I seen? I was in the subway about to go under a major boulevard in Moscow to go to a museum, and this is a bride and her father, and they were actively arguing. They were absolutely going for each other. And I could have done what I guess camera cop people would have done, put on the 70-200, shot it from the other end of, and then I would have had a shot. But the thing was, I ran ahead of them knowing that there was only one exit, put the 15 manual lens on at a certain distance and waited for them to appear. And it's just like if you see photographers at press conferences that they are restricted by the telephoto, they hate it. But when they actually get out in the field, they go straight to their 24s and 35mm, because they love the idea of context. In other words, showing the surroundings of somebody. Okay. So especially with a modern digital camera, you can later on crop. But if you've given an image a 70-200 perspective, you've probably had to make that decision at the point of taking the photo. So most of your cropping options are gone. And there is a certain film-based anxiety that comes with it, because as you're cropping it, you go, God, I can't do anything with this because I'm making the decision as I'm pushing the shutter. And what quickly goes in your frame, you better hope you've made the right decision, because human nature is just go straight into the main detail. Now, the problem with that is, and this is what Alan and me have been fighting, is human nature is, yeah, you do go straight to the center of everything. But the people who aren't present, like Alan and me, we don't know the context because we don't see what's around. The environmental context is so important. So I would suggest to anyone, think about this. When you're overseas, your 70-200 is a fantastic lens, but also think of your wide angles to create context, special environmental context, because quite a much of the environment of overseas is so extraordinarily strange. Now, can we have a look at the second image and then I'll shut up? Now, this is me taking a photo in the capital of Mongolia. I'm actually waiting for the lights to change so that all these incredibly modern office workers, who I just wasn't expecting, beautifully dressed, would all march towards me, and I'd get a 15mm, actually no, 24mm look on that. But what happens is, in the corner of the frame, I could see what was happening. She's actually being pickpocketed. Now, again, as you can see, as in a classic, it goes back to the Renaissance when pickpocketing was the trade. there's a distractor who's talking to her while the chap behind's actually reaching into her bag. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is, again, if I use the mentality that I see in so much of the photography, I would be zooming in on the hand on the bag and the close-up. But what you've got to realize, the context shows you that this is happening in broad daylight at 5 o'clock peak hour, and all the people are watching her getting done. So that's how context is so important. I know it's great to go in for the graphic crop, and there is a reason there. But by going super wide, you can see there's a policeman only meters away. There's a crowd watching the pickpocket do their thing. I mean, this is just why context is so great. So think of your cameras, if you can afford, think of it as a 2-lens operation. You've got your wide angle ready to go for anything that occurs. And your telephoto, that's got the compression effect that you love, but it's not to be used exclusively as your recorder of humanity, because humanity looks sometimes better, slightly wider. So that's what I wanted to say about what I saw in
Christopher.
photography.
Good on you. Thank you. So we let the slideshow rip.
Okay, you ready for that?
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Lawrence. So, that's the run through. So we've now got 7 awarded images, some highly commended, and then a runner-up and a winner. So we might go through them in the reverse order. So and get some comments from our judges on those 7 images. So if we could see the first one, Lawrence, that would be lovely. Right, so Angela McLeod and Evil. Is that right?
Yes.
Honourable mention, yeah. So, gentlemen, do you want to talk about that image? Hello.
Alan, you go first. I remember you love this.
Yeah, the mood and the expression that came from this is great, and sort of the work that's been done is not overpowering. I love what has happening with the eyes there. So the eyes have been worked in a certain way that it actually does. It's spooky. It scares me a little bit. So I love how it's, and I kind of love how it is just the full frame. We're not getting the full face. We're not getting any other information around it. Everything is basically conveyed through what's in the hair, and essentially you're just traveling straight to those eyes the whole time. So well done.
Right, thank you. Next.
I was just going to say, I love the top lighting. The top lighting is exactly what Alan's talking about. It's giving you sockets for eyes, and then there's been a reflector and probably Photoshop to just lighten them up almost a little bit artificially, so that there's just this weird exorcist look about it. But certainly your styling is brilliant, like your hair and that. Fantastic work.
Great. This is from Gary Bursford.
You jump on this one, Christopher. I'll jump on the next one.
All right. With this one, it's just the ingenuity, because you've obviously thought about what you're doing here. We've got the, well, I guess the transformation of male to female, androgyny puzzle, as it says. And the only element here that I find didn't get you into another category, the cutouts are just a little bit two-dimensional. If there was just a drop shadow there, or even a blur to give you a feeling that these things were floating off the subject. But ingenuity, that's a fantastic image.
Good on you, Gary. Alan, have you got any comments on that?
Pretty much said it all.
Yeah.
And possibly just with the repetition of the puzzle pieces around the edges, like maybe varying that up. So it does have more of a puzzle kind of feel because it is fairly symmetrical in what's happening.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I love this one.
Hanging around in a car park.
Yeah, we both love this one just because it's something like we see. It's a kind of we don't see something like this. This is just fun in terms of conceptual thinking and capturing it. So I think the only thing was there was something you said, Christopher? I forgot what it was.
I remember that when
camera?
I saw this, I just thought that the lower figure, if they were in a desperate situation like this, they'd actually be either looking at where their hand's gripping to see that they're gripping properly, or looking up to the above to see if the person's really got a grip. And also, you could also have contact. I mean, it's so small in the frame, but you could have things falling out of pockets. But I just think, yeah, just that little bit of relationship from the bottom figure would have been more terror. But what ingenuity, hey? That's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's a great concept.
Yep, it's great. Next. Nicole Andrews, Inside Out, from the Melbourne Camera Club.
Well, we've seen a lot of this work over the lockdown, where people and professional photographers have even tried to make money out of this by going up and down streets, knocking on doors saying, can I photograph your family? Because again, what I said in my preamble, you're the photographer. They can't take a photo of their family group suffering a lockdown. So here's someone who with an outside vision going, let's photograph you in your house coping with the lockdown. Now, this is a really good representative because I've actually seen the professional version of this, and I love the idea that occasionally you didn't get anyone that wanted to participate. So the chairs are there. They're inside. No, I don't want my photo taken. So that's cool. But also basically most people seem to be this is obviously lockdown last year, calmly accepting that they're having a peaceful moment. I don't know if you get the same imagery this year.
No.
Yeah, and I love the feel that it's not just the portraits, but you also get that feeling from the furnishings around, so you can actually get a bit more of a picture of the people who are in there. And I just love it looks like a bed, but it's not. It's a couch. But yeah, I think just that the difference in furniture and kind of helps tell the story of the people that are there, even if they're not there.
Great. Next. Adrian Donahue, Beyond These Castle Walls from Doncaster. And that's a beautiful photo. He's a wonderful photographer. So I'm not surprised that he got an awarded image.
Yeah, so with this one, it's compositionally, it's done really well, both in terms of how you place the elements within the photo, but also how you've actually constructed it together, because there's obviously lots of different photos that have been put into this. So I do like how you got the shading, and the girl, her expression is great, it's believable. So that's good. I know Christopher has some other points to add in.
I actually think this is almost at professional level. That's
Yeah,
how
definitely.
good this is at dragging detail out of that room. The only thing that I'd say is think of the human eye. If you were looking at that little girl, the things through that window would be a shade or two brighter and a shade or two less focused. So this is an issue that real estate photographers have worked out in the last 2 or 3 years that they didn't initially. They tried, they knew because of Photoshop they could make the outside as bright as anything or as well lit as anything. But the problem was it wasn't that believable. Nowadays, you'll see if you look at real estate photography, the vision outside is always a shade or two brighter than the inside, so it does look believable. Now, I accept the swan should be in focus, but by the time you get into the buildings at the back, that's focus stacking, and that's probably making the believability just that shade bit less than it could be. But I'm telling you, Adrian, you're that close to professional standard on this.
Great. That's a lovely shot. And second place is Peter Broadbeck from the Camberwell Camera Club, Treading Water.
I'll let you go for this one, Crystal, because I know how much you love this one.
Oh God, I love this one. Firstly, it's a duotone. I mean, you've only got really 2 basic colors in it. And what obscure colors to throw up against each other, the orange and the blue. It really, if you look at the Pre-Raphaelite school of drowning princesses and things like that were painted, they didn't go to these extreme colors. They were all very green and velvet reds. This is a really strange situation. And if you look at it, the blur of the hands gives you a sense of motion. So the only thing that's odd here is the photo's not quite in the center and it's not quite sitting on the third. It's somehow slightly askew. And for an unbelievable misstep, there's the curve of the base, which to me tells you it's a safe swimming pool. It'd be so good if we didn't have the security of knowing that she's actually floating in something, that it's the swimming pool. Because the right-hand side, it's brilliant.
Peter is a member of our club, and I'm not sure whether he's on the Zoom or not, but I'll give you the background. He's explained it to us previously. It was a very passionate photographer, excellent photographer. It was his PA at work where he worked. He went to an op shop, bought an old wedding dress. I think there was chains involved to hold her down so she didn't float to the top. I don't know. It was in his own swimming pool at home. So it was full on. I'm not sure whether she continued to work for them or whether this was covered by workers' compensation if it was an accident. I'm not sure. But no, he's very creative. So, Alan, have you got...
No, Christopher said it all. I know how passionate he was about this one, but yeah, well done, Peter.
Yeah, that's a lovely shot. It's great. And a bit of a drum roll. Here we go. The winner is... David Bignell, Torn to Pieces from the Camberwell Camera Club. I know David is watching, and again, an incredibly creative photographer. Story about this, he printed tissue paper through his own printer. How about the risk in doing that? And then came up with this idea that every competition, we all stand back and wait to see what David's going to produce. But anyway, over to you, judges.
Yeah, the depth in this is what the depth and emotion. That's what you get. The depth of how it's been presented to us in terms of the creativity of, again, we didn't really know it was tissue paper. It was just on some kind of paper and has been sort of damaged and put back together and rephotographed. It was great. But even I feel if the photo wasn't ripped to pieces, and it was just a straight shot, I still think that is probably one of the most emotionally impacting images that we saw probably through the whole competition. So it was great. I just absolutely loved how it was put together, the story. You can tell lots of different stories from this. The lighting on the portrait is brilliant. So yeah, well done, David.
Yeah, no, well done, David.
And I just wanted to say, look, it looks like a death mask, one of those things that Napoleon or even our Nick Kelly got. And the fact that you've then destroyed it by pulling it apart, it just, and the shadows, the 3D version of it, it's actually leaping forward off the paper. You've just got a really good eye and creativity.
Great. Well, thanks, gentlemen, and thanks, David. We love having this component in the competition because it does enable people to sort of stretch themselves and play and do all those sorts of things. So that's fantastic. So well done, David. That's a great start. Now, before we we can move on to the 2 and more people section of the competition, but before we start, I just want to pass on some very sad news we got from our friends at the Waverley Camera Club. Rosie Hughes, who's entered an image in this competition, it's entitled "I Love My Baby," unfortunately, rather tragically, or very tragically, had an accident and died fairly recently. So they were wondering whether they should pull the image, and we decided we should definitely keep it in respect for her work and her love of photography. And so you'll see it as it runs through. So again, we, very sad for all that, and pass on our best wishes to all her friends at the Waverley Camera Club. So just with that sort of background, let's just oh, no, you two guys, do you want to just talk about some of what you saw as some of the aspects of taking portraits of 2 or more people before we run the slideshow?
Did you want me to share my screen, Ken?
Yes, thank you. So,
well, obviously, if you have 2 or more people, then we're usually looking for a relationship or some sort of supplement to each other. It's probably important to, again, remember that contextual environment around the subjects helps a lot in creating storytelling. But certainly when you've got 2 people, we want to see some reaction to each other, some support to each other.
right.
And I'd just add that I kind of feel like, multiple people in an image, especially in a portrait, can actually be quite tricky. So well done to everyone who's entered, and I'm sure if you haven't watched the slideshow already, you'll be pretty inspired with what's about to come up.
Great. Okay, let's let it rip. Great, thank you. And you would have seen Rosie's image about the third from the last, from the end. So it's a beautiful, beautiful photo. Okay, guys, do you want to sort of, we'll show the, again, 7 images that you've awarded, and you can chat to them all. And honourable mention, Mark Smith, Pensive from Maroondah.
Yeah, this is this was well done, Mike. In terms of, this is just difficult light and such a different and unique composition. So I love the mood and the atmosphere you get from this. Even the fact that we can only see one face, but you still get a very kind of dramatic mood that is happening through here, and the harshness of the contrast is also just really well done. Cat agrees with me. The cat's definitely agreeing. Cool, I must know.
Right.
Now, if you think about the degree of difficulty here, one thing digital doesn't like is contrast ranges, and you've got detail on the whites through to a solid black, which is a very dangerous thing to go near. But obviously, it just creates an abstract here, and because you've decided to crop it square, it's absolutely perfectly contained. So, very well seen, very well executed.
Great, thanks. Next. Ingrid Men in Black from Eastern Suburbs.
Yeah, this one really jumped out. I think one of the biggest things about this one is it's an interesting story, but technically to actually be holding, you know, as we were just talking about, highlights, the detail that you can see for the structures and the highlights in the background is just been handled really, really well. So it's an interesting story. I love how it's just monotonal, so black and white, but it's color. It's just really well done. So congratulations.
Ingrid, I think you've just got a very clever eye too, because most people, and I probably even join them, would probably have cropped in, because the cleverness of the photographer being on the floor, taking the low angle, which is great, but you've actually allowed this a lot of room. So you better know where you're going to put your exposure, and you've just hit it on the head. So there's just enough shades of white above the subjects. I just think it's a really great capture and very well seen.
Right. Next.
Oh, this is so good.
May birthdays, Melbourne Camera Club. It's a warm, happy photo, this one, isn't it?
Oh, this is so good. This is Norman Rockwell. I mean, this has just got so much written all over it. I love this. I really, really do. I mean, there's so much to talk about here, because really what you've done is exactly what I said. Why are you a photographer in the portraiture field? Because you're there to record events so people can take their mind off being recording. They can be in the event. And this child is so in the moment. It just, every other person is, you know, doing what they're told. And she's just startled. It's her first year where she understands the full concept of what a birthday is about. I mean, she's just staring beautifully. And every little component. There's so many little triangles of composition in here. Your exposure. Now, this is the danger. Why didn't you go any higher? There are a lot of technical issues with, I don't know if everyone can appreciate it, but there are some technical issues because you've pushed the ISO boundaries and there's a lot of digital noise in there. But I'm going to say I personally love this very, very much because you've done exactly what we asked you to do as a portrait photographer. You've encapsulated a moment which this child will thank you for in 20, 40 and 60 years' time.
Lovely put, Christopher. Alan?
How can I follow that? No, I don't have anything to add. But yeah, definitely those technical issues were really like, we're both going, ah. So yeah, but you've still pulled out something really good, even though that's what happens when you've got a great image and you have all those expressions and the moments and things like that happening. You can actually, the technical stuff actually just doesn't matter. Like, capture the shot.
How do you think it was lit? How do you think it was lit? I suppose Bob might come onto the chat and tell us, but it looks as if it's lit from the left, doesn't it? A bit.
I think it's lit by the candles. If you look at the shadows going up.
Yeah, you think? I don't know. The girl on the left, it's probably, she's got some shadows coming up from her glasses. You're right, in that same direction. Yeah, lovely. It's
the thing that technically, I almost thought, is this captured on a phone in HDR? Because of the noise aspect, but the fact that it's doing what even my Sony would be struggling to get detail in the candles all the way through to people in the background who are, you know, not that close to their participants. It's pretty amazing that if you think about it, and even their interpretation of color temperature is just so on the money. It's a creative use of color temperature. Yeah. I just think it's fantastic.
Thanks, Bob, for sharing that with us. We all loved it. Jared Burns, Court of Owls, Caulfield.
Yeah, this was definitely very high up on my list. Congratulations, Jared. This one kind of brings me back, especially the toning that you've got through this to photographer Anton Corbin, who's one of my favorites. The posing is brilliant. I love how it's all been put together. The styling is just beautiful. I think the biggest distraction that we both looked at was that on the right side, if that was darkened down a little bit, the toning was just brought down a little bit, basically all around it, making a bit more of a vignette. So you're going straight into the middle. I think that would have just made it, that would have taken up that next level.
Great.
And of course, the degree of difficulty here is, well, you've had to direct this one. This is not a child blowing out candles where things are going to happen and people will know what to do. Here you've directed where people stand, where they place their feet and things like that, the angles of heads, and they have to be in relationships to the detail that's in focus behind. So you've taken a very fanciful scene and put it in an urban alleyway. And as I said to Alan when we were talking about this, if they printed down the right-hand side, it would have actually added an air of mystery because with the graffiti so obvious, you know where it is. But it's, you know, you've directed 3 people towards a common good.
And in days gone by, we would have anticipated a shot like that taken at that festival in Venice. But see, you know, you can go down a lane in Melbourne and get the same look. Yeah. Okay, next one. It's Andrew Cole taking a break from Camberwell.
This is just a beautiful exercise in composition. You've got that beautiful sweeping curve and the placement of the people on the couch. It has just been handled really, really well. Yeah, compositionally, that's the biggest thing that got me. It's telling a story. It's like that whole, you know, break-in shopping. Everyone's on their phones. It's just, yeah, it's a real good sign of the time. Also about the current interior design that we actually get through current shopping centres. So.
Great.
And Andrew, you're so on it because from probably ground level, you wouldn't appreciate the tablets that this couch becomes, you know, a whole set of tablets all stacked on top of each other. And yet they do, and from directly above, it's just gloriously thought of. So what's knocking it back? Just too many things. It's one of those things where if there maybe was only 2 subjects, they didn't have their luggage, there wasn't a plaque on the floor, then we'd be really just highlighting how beautiful that couch is from above and how the odd shapes of, say, the red person and the black person are. But the green person, the luggage, the tablet on the floor, it's probably a moment early or a moment later, you would have got an even better result without doing anything more, just removing detail of one person.
Great. Thank you. Good on you, Andrew. Next. Second place. Oh, Russell Mason, Binos at the Beach from Melbourne Camera Club. Wow, this is a one out of left field, guys. Come on, just talk us through this one.
Well, I do know between this and the first one, there was a lot of discussion. It was quite a hard way to pull.
I'm hoping the first one's the first one because I'm thinking, are you sure? Anyway, this one works because the image in the binoculars is the image that's basically grabbed the attention of the person who was formerly a couple in the background. So this happens to all of us. The photographer in us takes over and we forget the romance of where we are, and our partner, hands pushed into pockets, just marches on, says, "We'll take the photo." And he's seeing a photo that the binoculars is also seeing, because he's going, "That's such a great view." And he's totally ignoring the personality that he's escorting out on a Sunday afternoon walk.
And yeah, again, also with the light on this, so the warm light, and it's quite a contrasty light this time of the day. And so to actually be able to hold the detail that you've had through the highlights, even into the binoculars and into the building in the background, yeah, it's just been done really well. So yeah, well done.
I think that this awarding of this image says a lot about our judges, in that when this ran through in the slideshow, we didn't have enough time to actually see that detail. So we've got 2 judges who are looking at these images really closely and enjoying it and finding things in it that as a casual quick look in that quick slideshow we couldn't have seen. But they've taken the time and just engrossed in the story. And this image, as they've explained it, does really tell a very nice little story. And so thanks, judges, for taking the time.
The other thing about it that Anton Corbijn is very famous for, he's done a real lot of work to see what happens with certain lenses out of focus. And one of the things it does is it creates stick insects. So the legs become much thinner as they go out of focus. And it's just one of those crazy things that these people have crazy legs as well. It's caricature time.
Yeah, great. Thanks, judges. Here we go, drum roll. Peter Knight, winner's circle, Knox. Good on you, Peter. Even on the slideshow, you could, when this one came up, you went, "Oh, gee, that's great." So
I'm going to jump in first because I know Christopher's going to completely lose it because I know he loves this one so much. Yeah, so this is when this came up, I was like, "Oh yeah," and then you start thinking about okay, this is a really unique angle of a winner's team. You don't see this kind of shot. Normally it's just all lined up together and they're holding the thing, and it's really a good moment of celebration. You get the joy that's coming out of it, and thinking of this angle and getting this lit so well by using basically open sun reflecting off one guy is just amazing. So compositionally, it's beautiful. I love the beers. It's just, yeah, well done.
Yep. Peter, the thing I've got to say to you is you've absolutely nailed the personalities in this team. And that's the thing that happens. Annie Leibovitz has copped this in the past about basically turning everyone into the same. No, you haven't. You've actually, every single person in this photo has their personality. So the shyer people are there, but then the more gregarious people are bursting forward with their giggling and laughing. It's just full on happiness. And I know that Moby's done a record cover of this, and I went back and looked at it, and it's just not as successful as your image, Peter. You've absolutely made, because of the plaque, you've created something of interest leading towards the centre. And there's even steam coming off the plaques, for heaven's sakes. How did you do that? You know, I just think this is an amazing, spontaneous moment. I could imagine that if you're a professional photographer, you were instantly lining up about 10 or 11 copies of this going out straight away, because every person is flattered, every person's in the moment. They will never forget this angle because they can't see it. And yet, if you're a press guy, what would you have done? Push your camera on and maybe a monopod over the top, or ducked it in over the top. And we see that. That's a great photo too. But this links a group as a group. And a cricket season's a hard season because it's a season where you give up summers. And you've linked them all together. They're all physically linked because of the beauty of the white uniform. Brilliant work, Peter.
Good on you, Peter. Pity about the 12th man not getting in there. That's the only thing that they might be a little bit disappointed about. But the other 11 players are there. But that's absolutely well done. And it was, as even in the slideshow, when you only got a couple of seconds to look at them, it was a real standout. So thank you, Peter, and thanks, judges, for your passion in describing that wonderful image. So, yeah, well done. Okay, so we've now got a bit of a tea break for 5 minutes. So how about we reconvene it at about 22:09 to look at the further categories and then the winning image of the comp and the winning club. So we'll see you back here at 22:09. Lawrence.
Yeah.
Great. So, well, you all got your cup of tea, got your Tin Tams. So we can now move on to the single person category, which I suppose from a portrait photography point of view is, you know, the 100 meters, I suppose, the feature event. It's what a lot of people outside photography think that's what portraits are all about, that single person shot. So this is our 100 meters, or you could say, or our marathon, I'm not sure. So do we want to just go to our judges and see whether they've got any general comments about the sorts of images that they saw in this category from what was entered? We seem to have Jill as our feature person here on my screen anyway.
Alan, you ready to go?
He's muted. You're muted, Alan.
I was.
Okay.
Not now.
You'll have to say it all again.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say that, but my dog enjoyed it.
Dog and cat.
Yeah, what I was saying was, yeah, again, from all the entries we saw in here, it was a very, very huge range of great images on very different topics and too. So again, it sort of comes down to, like, you have the captured moments, you have the setup shots, and you know, we definitely saw advantages in both of them in this. As Christopher said at the beginning too, that whole, you know, seeing a bit more space, that was definitely going to be something that's going to help you in this, just to help with that story, especially with one person. Unless you can really convey through the lighting and your composition what's actually happening through the expression and the person, you might need those extra elements to help you sort of get along. But yeah, it's been really well done. So there's lots of great entries in here.
Thanks, Christopher.
And the thing that is often said at national awards and the professional level is, we love it, but you haven't actually convinced the subject. And that is so true of quite a few photographers, is that they know their camera and they know their technique and they know what they're striving for, but at no stage have they actually communicated that to the subject. So often what happens is that you see a photo which is the subject just staring back, going, I hope this is what they wanted, because they don't know what is expected. So when you ever do get a chance to photograph someone and it's a very important someone, or it's a very important situation, it could even be the bride, you know, your niece's wedding, you just go in ahead and you just say, I'm about to take your portrait. Just think of your husband tonight. Just put an idea in her head, anything that could stimulate a response which has genuine moment for her. So put an idea in anyone's head. If you're stuck for a moment, I will often go to YouTube and play a famous scene in a film. I said, now, I want you to look at this chap here. I want you to see what's going through his mind as this happens. Can you imagine what's going through his mind? And there's so many times that I've gone to films, famous films, and I've said, look, this is acting. Can you give me something of that? Give me something of that emotion, because you want a shot of you being a basketballer. Now, I don't want you to just stand there holding the ball. Be a basketballer. Think of something ingenuous with your eyes. Give us some eye contact and strength. So that's what you've got to do in single person portraiture, is you not talking to a group. You're not relying on group dynamics. It's just you and the subject. So you've got to get inside their head. You've got to get them inspired. And it's up to you to sort of do that, whether it's by word or example or even scrapbooks. Okay?
Great. We're really getting some fantastic comments and suggestions here. And again, I should reiterate that every image has got comments from at least one of the judges, and you'll be seeing those. I should also at the same time mention that as far as scoring is concerned, and this comes up when we get to the aggregates winner of the clubs, each image is scored out of 40. Both judges judged out of 20. We each aggregated their scores. So that's the way it's built up. But thank you very much for those comments, gentlemen. And perhaps we'll have a quick look through the 100 or so images. Wow, I don't know about you, but I sort of feel we've had a bit of a tour around the world, and I feel that I've moved out of my home for a while, and seeing all these wonderful photos and all these different lovely people. So thanks everybody for sharing all those images with us. So I'll pass over to the judges to talk about their 7 awarded images. Let's let it rip. Lad from Down Under, Paul Robertson, Caulfield.
Oh, Paul, you've really nailed this. This is what we say. You've got inside the person. They're giving you everything. There's nothing being held back. There's no, like bodybuilders, they love to show off, but you've actually drawn out the larrikin in him. I love the fact that his skin tone is slightly red compared to the green of everywhere else. It's really like, you've worked inside his mind and got him to portray himself as a lad. And that's, the larrikin. That's perfect. I love the lighting too, because it's a top light source, almost like a skylight, but it's probably a flash just on a stem.
So the one thing that kind of pulled you back a little bit was your vignette and how it's coming over the forearm there, the prominence. So it's obviously, you've darkened it down there a little bit on the edge of the arm, a little bit too much, and that's just making it a little bit unnatural. But apart from that, yeah, Christopher has said everything.
Great, thanks. Regal, Julie Gilbert at Latrobe Valley.
Yeah, this certainly is Regal, and it does sort of hark back to a bygone era. And obviously this little girl's very much a stern Victorian queen. And I love the posing, the styling has been handled really, really well. I love that the flowers the sunflowers bring it back to being a little bit more modern. So it's an old photo. And generally with this kind of toning, this sort of sepia toning, it doesn't really work that well, but it suits this image perfectly. So well done.
Great.
Julie, you're right on top of your styling, as Alan's mentioned. The spread of the dress, the lighting is perfect. This is almost classical lighting, which is very unlike lighting that's given to children nowadays. So there's a strong shadow coming off that nose bridge, but the way that you've managed to get detail in the bottom of that dress so that your eye is being led up by a natural vignette up to the face, it's perfect. And like so many photos we saw, they were evenly lit because that's the style today, big soft boxes or big open windows, but you've actually directed the light towards the principal subject in a portrait, and that's the subject's eyes. Very beautiful work.
Thank you, it is, yes. Daryl Whittaker from Latrobe Valley, Salt Angel.
Oh, Daryl, we love comedy in photography. Someone who's just worked up a sense of style in the moment. I don't know how much thought went into this, but you have created a Salt Angel. The only thing that disappoints me is the camera. Why did he have to keep his lens on? Because it's such a killer image. I mean, this is the issue with a phenomenon, which is aerials. Aerials to people like Alan and me are not as extraordinary as they are to the general public. We see them just too much. We see them in competition too much. Our friends post them to us in their Facebooks things, and they're glorious, but they're not having the effect that they had 5 years ago because we've seen them so much. So like Children in Baskets, it's had its day in the sun and it's now starting to gel against us, jar against us. But here you've gone and given us an era which actually has some reason for being, some cleverness, some ingenuity. I just love it that you can see the footprints going out to it as well. You could have so easily retouched that out, but you decided to leave that in just to give it a human feeling.
Yeah. We're right on
Yeah,
that.
I'm definitely right on that. There's the sense of fun that you get from this. Like, you can also tell the character from this. So image-wise, great, but yeah, you know who this person is. They're willing to lie down in the salt and just get dirty, just for fun. I love it.
Great, thanks. Wow, this is an edgy one. Play it again, James Mixian, Melbourne Camera Club.
Well, James, there's a very, very famous Herbie Hancock record cover, which is similar to this. And so I think the only benefit you would get is, let's think of the proportions of a record, a square, or a CD cover, square. And if you cropped got rid of that ear, which is too highly lit, and took all the detail from the ear to the left boundary away, you have the dynamic of that reflection in the glasses. But the clever thing I noticed compared to Herbie Hancock cover, you've actually included the hand forming a chord. And that's actually a really clever little touch, because you can see that it's not like, now I want you to put the glasses here, look down and all that. No, he's a musician. It's just too boring to do that. He's lent in and added his touch, which is the single hand going in and forming a chord. I just love it. As I said, the zone of focus is perfect. This could really easily be a perfect square record cover.
Lovely, great. Alan, have you got any?
Yep, no, I have nothing more to add. It's just apart from well done, James.
Fantastic. Next. Ralph Domino, Dive Bomber, Melbourne Camera Club.
Yeah, well done, Ralph. This, as an exercise in composition, this is just perfect. And then the fact that it's just black, white, and yellow, yeah, brilliant. So I'm not sure how this was captured, but it has just been done so well, just well seen, very well presented, keeping all those the lines straight top and bottom, and everything just is in its perfect right space. Even down to the point that where you've actually, it would be so easy to crop the bottom of the legs out where there's that little bit of gray on the man, but leaving it in there actually helps balance all of this together. So yeah, I think it's amazing. Well done.
Now, Ralph, in a modern construct, we'll assume that this is digitally assembled. That means that you've chosen a subject that has a bald spot. So we're all men in this room are feeling the tension that beak's going to not hit hair, it's going to hit the landing pad. It's actually aiming for that spot. It's going to pierce the skull. I'm going to assume, because in a digital world, you can clone, you can remove, you can patch, but there's a reason for that bald spot there. It's the aiming point, and it just creates beautiful tension.
Sorry, I was
Oh,
muted. Wow, Maggie, good on you. Maggie Tan, Lonesome Campbell.
Well, congratulations, Maggie. And this is exactly what Christopher was saying at the start, the fact that you're actually giving us the environment. It's so easy to focus on a face being sad, but to focus on the space and the environment being just little hints of life in there just adds it up, just brings it all together. And then just having that simple light, that window light coming through, giving you that natural vignette that happens through the image. It has just been so beautifully done. So yeah, well done, Maggie.
Maggie, you've done exactly what I asked you of. In 25 years' time, that house won't exist, this lady won't exist. And you've got an absolute perfect geometrical construct of exactly her in her place. And the fact that her hands are so beautifully and respectfully posed. She's just restrained by holding the sink. It's just beautiful. It really, really is. And your sense of grace, there's no need for dynamics here. This is a woman who's very passively in the moment. She doesn't need the super dynamic range. The greys are doing a beautiful lonesome. That's why the greys are there. Beautiful work.
Great. Well done, Maggie. So, drum roll, here we go. Solo Explorer, Jeff Edwards, Caulfield. Well, this is a different one. Go for it, judges. It's a lovely story. Let's hear more about it.
Alan, you go first.
Yeah, just this resonates with me because, again, this is, in terms of a portrait, you don't need to see the face. You don't need the face to show you what's happening. And as a parent, this is the kind of thing my kids go and find things, and they explore and they adventure, and they don't always, this is the sort of stuff that you look at and you think, oh, what the hell is a kid going to bring home and put in their pocket? But the fact that they're doing it, and this just captures that story, and compositionally, beautifully, that flow down from the right to left, and that the leaning down to grab, and the very bold choice of just having that orange, just that orange background is, I'm not sure how you did it. I'm assuming it's going to be, I'm going an awesome sunset. So yeah, very well done.
Right.
Jeff, I just go back to the classic illustrators, E.H. Shepard of the Winnie the Pooh fame. The idea of a silhouette instructing person, it's the last page of a Winnie the Pooh story, always the silhouette of Pooh and Piglet, or the Winnie of Christopher Robin, the silhouette finishes the story. And here's a beautiful story. There's enough information on that child to almost identify them without actually a single thing coming through the silhouette. There's no detail in that silhouette. You can feel each finger as it reaches down. The dynamics just so childlike too. The bending of the knees to get down to the ground to pick it up. It's a very well seen photo, and I would say a courageous one for a competition. And that's what we love to reward here. That you've actually gone outside and tried something more interesting. It might have fallen flat. It certainly hasn't. It's beautifully seen.
Great. There's a lot of emotion in there, and yeah, very creative and all that negative space. So that's lovely. Well, we've gone through all the images. We've seen the winners of each of the categories, and now there's two things to be done. One is to look at the image of the competition. I imagine it's going to be one of the three winners of each of the categories. It would be very controversial if it wasn't. So let's assume it's going to be one of those three. And then we'll Donna will introduce the announcement of the winning club. So let's have a look at the winning image. So we got Lawrence. We got a bit of a drum roll. Got the ready to go.
We can try.
Yeah.
Hang on, Dick. Sorry.
Are all the winners here?
We'll find out.
We should have their cameras. They should have video cameras on. We want to see reactions.
But then they'd have to know.
We like the Academy Awards.
Oh, David, the crowd's going berserk. Can you hear that? We had to shut them up. Now, David, we've got an opportunity for you to join us and talk about the photo. You can tell them about the tissue paper or whatever it was. So do you want to sort of unmute yourself and jump on board?
Sure. What I was thinking as I was looking at all these images going through was that we're all winners as photographers, because it forces you to see life in a different way. And looking at the extraordinary photos going through, it was just wonderful. Maybe it's almost being in lockdown, you get to see all this life. We're all contained at this point, and now we can look at its vibrance, which is out there, and everybody's brought this tonight, and it's lovely to see it, particularly in this situation, I think. Anyway, I'm just thrilled. So the situation is that if you take tissue paper, like a three-ply tissue paper, and if you put some spray adhesive onto some A4 paper, then you can put that tissue paper through your copier. And
if you're game enough.
I was honestly, when I first put it through, I thought, no, this is it. I'm going to wreck the printer. But I thought, no, look, why not? Try it and see. As it turns out, I've done it a lot of times since. So It won't necessarily wreck your printer. Don't come back to me with a big
No
printer.
guarantee.
And then after that, the water, the way that it reacts with the inks is interesting. And I tried all different things. I sprayed it for a different photo, and this one I ripped it. And so go out there and experiment with this. It's really worthwhile, just the experimentation around this. And yeah, and I suppose that idea that the medium is the message, and I don't know, the kind of, in some sense here I was trying to think what could happen in this. So yeah, anyway, that's ideas. That's it. And I also want to say thank you very much to the judges. I really do. I appreciate it so much.
Good on you, David. Look, David's a very good friend and a lovely guy to have at the club. As you can see, he's very honest with and open about his techniques. David, do you mind if I tell them the story about when you weren't long at the club? This is the sort of the creative guy that we've got here. There was some competition, I can't remember what it was to do, but he wanted to get a photo of seagulls coming in very close. So what do you do? What do you do? Of course, everybody would do the same thing. Everybody would go to the Vic market, go to one of the fish vendors and ask them whether they can cut off a head of a large fish and give it to him. He takes it down, he puts his camera GoPro or something in the mouth of the dead fish on the beach down in St Kilda.
Actually, it was in the eye socket can.
Oh,
that sounds gruesome, but it wasn't big enough, so I had to cut it out and then put the GoPro inside the skull. And then because before then, all the seagulls were too scared of the GoPro, but then the GoPro was completely camouflaged and it worked fine.
So perhaps, next year we can move on from portrait photography and have photos using dead fish. Perhaps that can be the theme for this comp for next year. And so that's the sort of thing, if you're going to a creative category in this sort of competition, next year, that's the sort of person you're up against, okay? Couldn't get more creative than that. So thank you, and well done, David, and thanks, judges, for that. I'll pass off over to Donna to talk about the winning club.
Yes, well, I'm not making the announcement, of course, because I don't know who the winning club is, but I don't know, as judges, you've got two of you, and that's just as well, because I really don't know how you would ever work out who would be the winning club. The images, I don't know, but I just thought those images were absolutely fantastic. I'll have a little bit more to say about that when we wrap up tonight, but really stunning work. And as I say, I seriously don't know how you could possibly make a decision from those images. It was tough. It would be tough. So I'm not making the announcement, am I, Ken? Who's the winning club?
No, I think there's a virtual announcement.
There's a virtual. Okay, let's go. Let's roll over. Ooh.
Well, there you go. Congratulations, Melbourne. Over to you, Donna.
Oh, the Melbourne Camera Club. That's fantastic. Well, congratulations and well deserved. Really tough competition. So maybe we can hand over to Mark and. Well,
we also got the rankings of the other clubs. But
yes, we do.
That after Mark's talk. While Mark gets himself lined up and gets out those 10 pages of notes that he's prepared as a speech, we can just, Lawrence, could we just sort of see where the other clubs all rank up?
Okay. Oop. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the finals.
So it was fairly close, and there's all the 10 clubs. So it was fairly close, and Melbourne also was in the position where, because they were a larger club, they could only enter one image per member. So that was a good leveler. Okay. Mark, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Well, I'd really like to thank everybody for taking part in this competition. Thank you to the judges for their comments, etc. So I think we all enjoyed it, and thank you to all the participants, I guess, and especially the participants from our club.
Great. Thank you. So Donna, do you want to have some wrap up sort of comments, and then I'll come back at the end just to sign off?
Sure. So first of all, echoing sort of, probably stating the obvious, but, I thought tonight there was some really courageous photography happening. It's just so great to see so many members come together and just give us your best. And I think it's been a terrific evening from that point of view. And as I said earlier in the evening in my introduction, that some of the important things about this is the opportunity to build relationships with other members in clubs, and also to see some different work that we wouldn't normally see, because we're not at your comps each week or each month. So so thank you to all the photographers for sharing that with us. And it's also really heartwarming to see so many people congratulating each other on the chat screen. I can't even look for a question there. There's just so much complimentary dialogue going on to members and fellow photographers. So it's just very generous spirited of you. And because we are in portrait mode, I have to say that some of those portraits actually melted me a little bit, and they will definitely stand the test of time. And whether you received an award or not, you've actually really been awarded for taking images that your subjects are going to love for years to come. And I know from taking portraits, often they don't like their portrait, but they will in time love those portraits. So good on you for doing that, because there's some terrific work. I'd like to thank the judges, Ian and Christopher, Ian and Alan Moyle. Thanks to the judges for your very valuable and insightful comments. We can tell that you've spent a lot of time judging these images. And thank you to the photographers for sharing those images. Thanks for joining in and participating. I'm really looking forward to next year. I think the standard's been set quite high and I'm a bit nervous. So Ken, I might go back over to you.
Okay, well, thanks, Donna. And just a couple of things. I really want to, again, Donna thanked everybody at part herself at the beginning, but I particularly want to thank a few people from our club, Kevin and Lawrence, for sort of marshalling the whole thing. Maggie and Anne, our comp stewards, who laboured over this to bring it all together. Pam, from a technical point of view, this VP point of view, and Donna herself for marshalling it all. It is a lot of work. I mean, it's surprising. It looks pretty smooth sailing, but like a lot of ducks' feet under the water paddling pretty fast. So that was a lot of work. And again, I just reiterate Donna's comments about the judges. I mean, how good are they? The passion, the ideas, the thoughts. We'll learn a lot from that. Now, something that's a bit out of left field, which I just thought of as we were seeing this, and we're all in lockdown and all that sort of stuff. How about we rejoin next Wednesday night, same time, same place, and we just get the 21 awarded images that ask each of those photographers if they wouldn't mind joining us. We'll put up their image and they can just talk about it. And we can enjoy it a little bit more. So, I'm not sure how many people will join us, but hopefully most of the awarded photographers would join us. What else are you going to do on a Wednesday night in the middle of a lockdown? So, sure, there's probably some new ads on telly that might come up you might want to watch, but, apart from that, what else are you going to do? So we'll get something out and a new link, and we'll just join us. And you can talk about it. You can ask questions and unshare your screen, and we'll have a bit of a kick around and enjoy what we've seen in a little bit further.
Yeah, that'd be great. Can these images, the winning images,
I've lost track. Tuesday night. How about we do it even Tuesday night, next Tuesday night rather than Wednesday night? So sense of time, but so most people, if they're here now, they can probably do it again Tuesday night. So we'll do it next Tuesday night, and we'll get it.
That's lockdown.
Yeah. And I don't know if our judges want to join us to see as well, but whatever, whoever or friends want to join us, we'll just kick around for a little while and enjoy some of this wonderful work.
Yes. And Ken, you're going to organise to print the winning images?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I should say that the winning images, they'll be printed and put on a sort of a professionally sized mat board, and with a certificate to each, well, certificate for each of the awarded images, and the winner and runner-up will each get a properly professionally printed image matted, and we've got, and so that's fun. As I said, you'll get through your club a listing of all the individual scores of every image in the competition, and also the comments relating to every image in the competition as well. So you can, even if it's not your image, you can still learn from some of the comments on other people's images. So that's it.
Excellent. And so, yeah, so the judges did actually type in all the comments into, so if you're a club that uses Visual Pursuits, they will be there for you. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's a terrific record of tonight. So.
Yeah, I don't think there was any burning questions anybody had, but we can certainly deal with those again next Tuesday night.
7:30?
7:30, be there.
Same bat place, same bat time.
Okay. Okay.
You start to dress up, Ken.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Good. You'll have to dress up this time, Lawrence.
Maybe
Anyway,
not.
I think we've sort of finished. So thank you all. Excellent. Really enjoyed it, and hope you have as well.
Can I just do one more thing?
Yes, of course you can, Alan.
Yeah. So thank you. Like, just I guess on behalf of, I'm just going to speak for Christopher as well. Thank you for having us to do this. It's always a pleasure to share our passion, and we've been doing this for a long time, and actually to be able to kind of help improve everyone's photography. That's why we judge. Like, we judge because we can give back. So, and also because we can go, wow, we've really got to lift our game. And
Yeah, totally.
So and then I was also going to plug my exhibitions, if that's
yes,
okay.
please. I'm in for plugging. Plug.
If anyone's going up to the Biennale when it actually finally opens, I have 2 exhibitions because I'm silly. So I have got my my Behind the Curtain exhibition, which is all a behind the scenes documentary exhibition of comedians at the George Hotel in the Lane Cafe, just across the road from the Mining Exchange. And then I've got something completely different, a Polaroid exhibition called Integral Cognition, which is going to be up at the Hydrant Food Hall, not too far from there. So yeah, check them out if you're up there.
When does that open, or is
This weekend.
okay, sorry to ask that. I didn't mean that. Meant to be this weekend, is it?
It opens on the 28th, and I'll be sitting in closed venues until lockdown is undone. So
Okay.
yeah, so
Good one.
probably 2nd of September onwards. But on my website, if anyone goes there, there's links to everything, so you can see all the bits and pieces, and even look at the books. I've got limited edition books with them as well. So.
Great. Christopher, anything you'd like to tell us about before we depart?
I definitely recommend everyone go up to Ballarat to see Alan's work, but actually I usually go about 4 or 5 times because you won't see it all. It's Disneyland, remember? Can't do it all in one day. So what happens is go up there, start writing some notes, and then bring some friends back so that they, some friends who don't necessarily go to photography exhibitions, but make sure that they go to the 4 or 5 that they'll like, and then it'll grow. So, I mean, Alan's in some really great spots too. I know one of them really well, and it's a very impressive place to have photos. So yeah, you want to go.
Great.
Ken, it's Neil Roberts here from
Yes,
Maroondah. I went onto the Biennale website today, and I think you'll find it's been postponed indefinitely because of COVID.
Oh.
Not indefinitely.
Well, nobody knows when it's going to be.
Yeah, basically as soon as regional gets set up, locked down, and the venues can open up, it'll be open. We may not be able to get there because you're in Melbourne, but your regional people will be able to get there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And they've extended it as well, the time frame for it. So I'm really confident I'll get there to see it. I had to cancel my accommodation, but I'm still confident.
Yeah, good on you. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all, and see hopefully most of you next Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Ken.
Bye.
Thank you.
you.
Good
Good night, everyone.
night all.
Bye.